Welcome to Real People, Real Life, where everyday conversations lead to extraordinary insights. We're all about digging into the lives of regular people who've achieved success on their own terms. From business and entrepreneurship to fitness, politics, education, and beyond, we cover it all. This is Real People, Real Life. And now your host, Ryan Chereau.
All right, Matt. Well, I appreciate you coming out, joining us on the podcast. I got your submission, and it was interesting. There's some things in there I didn't even know about. You describe yourself as a neurodivergent. Explain that.
Basically, neurodivergent means I'm on the autism spectrum. I have high-functioning Asperger's.
So walk me through your story. You talk about some trauma and some things that you went through being neurodivergent and how that has affected your life today.
It's also, I'm dual ethnicity, so I'm Japanese-Mexican by genetics and ancestry. And growing up, I grew up in California, but still my family, mental health in both cultures is not a thing. And in the 90s, much less so. So I had to adapt. My mother, she meant well, but in the end, she had her own trauma that she couldn't quite get through, and she kind of passed the torch on to me. So a lot of my artistic skills I had to suppress, through high school, especially when I first became a writer. I was talked out of being one, and it screwed me up for a good while. With my form of Asperger's, I need even numbers. So if you give me like 3 candy bars, I'll only eat 2, which really screws with me because I like food. In terms of me being a photographer, I always have to have like an even amount of shots. And let me tell you how nuts that's driven me over the last 10 years. So growing up, long and short of it is I learned to be a street fighter. So I can pass for neurotypical, which means I can pass for someone who isn't autistic a lot of the time because I had to survive. Like 90s was such a harsh landscape for everybody, but neurodivergence in particular, it was difficult. Again, like I said, I had to hide a lot of who I was, and I didn't find out a lot of who I was until after, well into my late 20s, early 30s, and I'm in my mid 30s now. Um, Having to grow up in both a versatile and such a restrictive landscape at the same time presented unique challenges. And for me as a photographer, what I do is I'll take a shot of a place that you've seen a million times, but you'll think is in another country.
So what were some of the challenges that you struggled with before you came to grips with who you were?
A lot of it was communication. No one knew how to communicate with me, and I had to learn to communicate with them rather. Like I had to cross my own boundaries to respect theirs, and it was difficult because they took that as weakness and took advantage of it. So my path of least resistance was not speaking up when I clearly should have. And it not only affected my home life, with my family, but also with my first girlfriend. Oh, she did me dirty. Not in the fun way. That was the second ex. But we don't talk about that because I'm with my fiance right now. Oh yeah, I learned how to cope through humor. Humor is probably my greatest asset.
It is a good asset.
And that's how I survived. I had to learn to be the butt of the joke because I knew early on I was going to be. So, take your lot in life and adapt to it. And that's what helped me as a kid and as an adult now. The adaptability aspect of, okay, I have one of two very crap options. Which option is going to hurt the less, kind of thing. So through that, I've become flexible. So I'm a mimicker, chameleon. I can pass among the land of the living, as they say.
Are you able to be yourself, however, outside of the chameleon effect?
Only when I'm by myself, and a lot of the times I am by myself.
Are you comfortable when you are mimicking? Or is it a survival technique?
I wouldn't even say it's mimicking. It's almost like a weird form of symbiosis. Like I adapt to whoever I need to become, so I'm never disingenuous. Like every part of myself I portray is my true self, just with aspects hidden behind. So I guess a shapeshifter maybe more than anything. Like I'm customizable. There we go. A
Well,
customizable character.
well, humans in general, Matt, they want to assimilate, right? They want to be accepted. And so people will do whatever it takes, regardless if you're on the spectrum or not, to be accepted.
Right.
Disingenuous, unfortunately, is a symptom of people trying to be accepted. They'll just be accepted. I call it the wholesale opinion market. They'll just agree with whatever people have to say without actually putting their real self out there. So it's good that you recognize that even though you're fitting in, you're able to not be disingenuous and people are able to see a part of you that is real.
Right. It's very much about control too. It's I'm paraphrasing Serenity Prayer, of course, but control what you can and let go of what you can't.
Yeah, and that's critical. There's so much outside of our control. We talk on the podcast about people that overcome society's restrictions, quote unquote rules. I say there are no rules to success. Fear is a major holdback to success. And being that you're on the spectrum, you had additional things that you had to overcome. What would you tell people going through their younger years, teenage years, et cetera, that are on the spectrum, like yourself, who have desires? You wanted to be a writer, and you were told by the naysayers, no, that's not going to work out for you. And you actually succumbed to it until later on in life. What would you tell somebody if you could go back? What would you tell yourself if you could go back when you heard those naysayers?
Pardon my French, but I tell myself, kid, they're full of shit. I don't want to call it nihilistic apathy, but in a sense, it is like if we're all going to die anyway, you might as well have a life well lived. Like I want to be the guy that said, "Oh yeah, I did that," rather than, "Oh, I wish I did that." My best advice to myself and to anyone is just be yourself. Live your life without regard. So long as you're not hurting yourself or others, no one really cares. Be happy for you. My old man told me this, like 80% of the people don't care what you're going through, and 20% of the people are happy you're going through it. And I took that and molded my own, like, you know what? If that's the case, then, hell with it. I'm going to live my life. If you're living your life for someone else, you ain't living your life.
Matt, that's the greatest sense of freedom when somebody finally comes to the realization that their life is theirs and other people's opinions don't matter. I would say higher than 80% of the people out there really don't care about your journey. If you are successful in your journey, they're jealous. Mostly they project because they don't have what it takes to overcome the struggles necessary to achieve the success that you have in your own life. People need to be aware of this. And this, another segue I want to go into with you is your opinion on social media and how that is affecting, especially these younger generations. We see the highest level of,
Sorry about that.
but yeah, the levels of anxiety, depression, suicide amongst young people is at an all-time level. They have lost hope in the American dream. They've lost hope in achieving success in their own way. My opinion is that has a lot to do with the fake shit you see on social media. They're buried in their phones all day. What's your opinion on social media and how that is affecting people both on and off the autism scale?
I will tell you this: that social media is very much a double edged sword, but at the end, it's more detrimental than it is beneficial. You're right. With the shit that's out there, it's nuts, and people on the spectrum. Myself, since I'm a little bit higher function, I can see it for what it is because I worked retail for about five or so years, and I saw how real shit got, and it's like it's all a personification and an illusion built up by people that are disillusioned, if that makes sense. Um, Facebook is digital catharsis and also physical catharsis in the sense of, oh, let me post about my misery or my happiness, and it's keeping up with the Joneses, just 2.0.
Well, keeping up the Joneses, the problem is the Joneses are fake.
Exactly.
Every Jones out there is somebody hiring a Hollywood studio or creating a facade, trying to put out in the world that they have a life that they actually don't have, and then people believe it. One of the things we're trying to do here is dispel the fact that to achieve in life requires hard work, persistence. You have to be able to shut out the naysayers. Here's the thing, Matt, about all the people that told you, when you wanted to be a writer, that you shouldn't and you can't, is they're right 100% of the time until they're wrong.
And they're never
And,
wrong.
well, they are wrong once you prove them wrong.
Right. But I'm just
And
saying in that sense.
it's easy for people to look at people that want to succeed or push the boundaries. And it's easy for them to say, well, don't do it. No, you can't do it. No, that's hard. There's not too many people that make it in whatever you want to do. And that's a projection of them and their fears on you.
And also
They
their
want you to,
failures.
and their failures. That's correct. They didn't have what it took to chase their dreams and their uh, goals in their own life. And then, of course, you have the addition of cruelty of people that are casting judgment on you because you might be a little different.
Right. I mean, I hate to say it's nothing new, but circling back to initial Facebook, it is as beneficial as it is detrimental, and I would say it's more detrimental because people on the spectrum, especially with I have depression as well, so we're easily influenced by a lot of what we see, and it's having that personal discernment. I will say on success, find your own definition of it. It's not what it's cracked up to be. Even on my own, my small scale of success, I've been published a few times, sold a couple of my photographic pieces and what have you. But like what a lot of people don't see is the work that comes behind it. So let's say your favorite influence, posts something and it blows up. It's like there was work behind it. And with more independent artists, there's double, if not triple, the work. So social media in and of itself is a lie. It's fake book, as opposed to Facebook.
Yeah, it portrays instant gratification. Nobody sees exactly the journey, the struggles, what it takes to achieve success. Everybody wants what you have. They don't want how you got there. They're not willing to do the work. What would you say your definition of success is today as you've learned and grown through some of these difficulties you've gone through? How would you define it yourself?
For me, my success is defined by the people's lives I've touched. At the end of the day, if I can come see my fiance, if I can hang out with her, if I can have breakfast, and I can pay for it, I've done a good job. But if I haven't sold a piece, it drives me further. So my success is just being able to come home to a place of my own, and I have that to some degree. It's not 100% perfect. It's a daily struggle, but it's taking into effect the little blessings, and all the small blessings add up to a bigger one.
All blessings in my life, Matt, are have a foundation of hard work and persistence, tenacity. Right from my job to my business to my family life, it is hard work and it requires constant vigilance and being present. I love the fact that you said your success is defined by helping other people. More people out there need to understand how that feels. They're working so hard for themselves and they're miserable
Because ultimately they're
rather
working
than
for
going out.
nothing.
No, instead of going out in the world and having a purpose, why am I doing what I'm doing? Am I doing it for myself to put an extra dollar in the bank? Or am I actually benefiting other people by the effort, the output of my energy? Is that helping society? Is it helping somebody's day that day? Are they happier because they met Matt or they saw one of his pictures or read one of his writings? That provides a reason to do what you do.
It is, and that is that's what drives me to. It's like I personally will never know the effect I've had on a lot of people, but I would like to think that it was a positive one. Like I used to work with kids. Before I took injury, I worked for my hometown's Parks and Rec, and I worked with kids. I loved it. I got hurt and I couldn't continue my job, so I had to leave it. But my thing is like, if a kid thinks of me fondly, then I've done my job. Even if that kid's like, "Oh, Mr. Matt was being silly," I don't want to be like that kind of thing. But so long as I touch that live in a positive impact, like I can sleep well at night, and that's what it means to be
So
successful.
let's go. I love it. I think it's a fantastic definition, and it's personal, and that's what success ultimately is defined by. You should be able to define it in your own life. So when you were in high school and you were writing, what kind of writing were you doing?
A lot of it was poetry and lyrics, but I also started writing movie scripts because I wanted to be a filmmaker as well. And so I would toil away at that, and I would take on so many projects that I. So yeah, no, I wrote scripts a lot. I wrote scripts like what they would call fan films. So I wrote like Batman and like Legend of Zelda, which is a video game. So I did all kinds of stuff like that. I was good, but I was very unrefined. Let's put it like that. And after high school into early college, and even after, like, I picked it up on and off, but it was never a consistent thing. I had to give up on it. But in my late 20s, I started really focusing and buckling down, and I figured that, okay, I'm good at this. And then shortly after, when I was about 29, I picked up my camera for the first time. And I didn't even have an interest or background in photography. Um, my camera, Silk Scholar, as I call her, I've been with her for 10 years, and I've had a knack for it. I found out that I was just good at it. And again, through trial and error and persistence more than anything, I found that I have a marketable gift. And 10 years ago, when I first started out, like within 3 years, I'd fallen flat because my intent was just after myself. I was only after the next big score, the next big buck, and it took another 5 years to realize I have a gift and I can use it to make an impact, a positive impact on people, especially those of us on the spectrum. So that's when I decided to refocus, and that's how I became my own definition of success. And that's when I want to show to others, like, you can do it. Don't listen to the idiots.
Where do you find the strength in your life, Matt?
You faith in God and my beloved wife. I call her my fiance, but hopefully we'll be married within the next year. But she's very much my wife and soulmate. So you know, faith in God and my gift with her keeps me going, and the fact that I now have a future. I will tell you in all earnestness, I didn't think I would live past to see 18. In fact, my mother and I had a running bet that I wouldn't live past to see 18. And boy, when I hit 30, I think we called it quits on that.
Well, that's a pretty dark bet. Glad you called it quits on it.
Yeah. Funny thing is, I actually had died
I
when
interview
I was about
people.
31, 32. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I think I was about 31 or 32. I had succumbed to mental illness. They prescribed me something called lithium, and it killed me, quite literally. And I lost the use of my legs. I was out for about a month, I think. And apparently, according to my dad, God rest his soul, he told me that I had checked out 3 times at 30 minutes apiece. So he was the first person I saw when I came to, and he was crying. I never seen a man cry before. And yeah, long and short of it, I was without my legs for about 5 years. It was very arduous, very grueling, and very spirit breaking. I was kind of ungrateful at first. I used to say, the only reason I was brought back alive because neither God nor the devil wanted me, and they had a bitter custody battle. Hey, you take him. No, you take him. No, you take him. Fuck it. Send him back.
Hmm.
Um, I say I was mistaken, though. I had a purpose, and I still do, and that's why I'm kicking. And my purpose, I think, is just to help as many people as I can, even if through word of mouth, like, hey, you can do it. Don't succumb to the idiots. Like, they're just that, idiots. Like, live your life for yourself and without regard.
A lot of people I talk to, Matt, that are successful or going through their journey towards success, they speak of their faith as keeping them grounded. Has that been something that's been in your life your entire life, or is it something you came to later in life?
Well, my dad. So he's not my real dad, but I call him my dad. I met him when my first stepdad left, he got arrested for beating my mom and I for sport. So I met Steve, my current dad, and he was a Christian, a hardcore Protestant, and we clashed a lot of times. And the funny thing is, he shoved religion so far down my throat that eventually it took. He went about it
Hmm.
the very backwards way, but he meant well. And at the end of the day, it saved me. Like my dad and I, we never saw eye to eye, hardly ever. But he was a great man, and not a day goes by that I don't miss him. So I had told him a bunch of that
Hmm.
stuff. But my faith has always been that. Like I've always had a rocky relationship with God. Even now, my faith is in what it should be and what it could be. But I know at the end of the day that God, you know, if if God is with me, who can stand against me?
I think God gives us the right to have a rocky relationship with Him. He gave us the ability to choose. I think it would be boring if we were a bunch of robots and following mindlessly to a God. I think God gave us our personalities, our sense of humor, our struggles, so that we could have a relationship as we would with other people. So I
And there's
think
also the
that a
appreciation as
rocky
well.
yeah, rocky relationship at times with God is not a bad thing. It actually is potentially some of the times we learn the best. We learn through adversity, and if we come out the other side, we come out stronger. Do you
Exactly.
have the use of your legs now, Matt?
I do actually. It took 6 years in total, and also me getting my job with the kids because I learned to run really fast because the kid was doing something stupid and like, let me go fix that. Um,
Mm.
it's partial. Unfortunately, I got hit by a car in March, and I've had two surgeries on my legs. So, oh boy, I just realized how much damage has been done to me.
So, would you consider yourself a writer or a photographer as your strength?
At this point, it's even skilled. I'm a photojournalist at the end of it.
And where can people find your work, Matt?
You can find me on Twilight. I'm sorry, Redbubble. I'm Twilight Gemini. I have my photographs on like dress pattern shirts and what have you. I just uploaded a couple of new designs last night, and you can also find me on YouTube under Red Button Productions.
Red Button Productions.
My
Fantastic. Is there
icon is a character, a video game character holding a tarantula.
oh, okay, video character holding a tarantula. Keep an eye out for that. Is there anything encouraging you can tell people out there that are struggling and with naysayers about achieving their dreams, or if social media is beating them down? What would your advice be?
For social media, I would say take a break, turn it off. It's not all it's cracked up to be. You're only seeing what they're wanting you to see, you know. And as for just general adversity, be at peace and be with God. Like the first thing I can recommend is a relationship with God, a right relationship with Him, and just confidence in that. Why worry about today? Why worry about tomorrow? Even I'm sorry. Point is, don't worry about it. God's got it covered. Like if you put your faith and trust in Him, He will not do you wrong. And if you know it's BS, if it walks like a duck, if it talks like a duck, odds are it's a duck. And the best and most profound thing I can think of is this. And it's something I wrote many years ago. Valiant fight, epic flight, shed blood, then shed a tear. Slay what you hate without becoming who you fear.
That's great. We'll end with that, Matt. And I appreciate your time. I appreciate the advice. Hopefully, it'll put some hope in some people today, and perhaps maybe some wisdom regarding social media. If people are feeling overwhelmed by it, maybe they should take a break or look for things that are more positive. There are positive things about social media, but you got to look.
Yeah, and it's finding that direction too. Lastly, like find the direction. Like I've lived my life and I found the workarounds. It's like being you know, working with what you have instead of what you don't have. So, being that I'm autistic, I found workarounds to, life like that make it a little bit easier. You know,
Find the helpers, find the silver linings, and just find that faith in yourself. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, you're the one that's got you the most. Like, you know you best next to God. Don't give in.
Well, Matt,
Like, that's what they want.
I wish you the best. Absolutely. Yeah, never give up. Always fight. Well, Matt, thank you so much for joining, and we'll keep in touch, and I wish you the best.
It was a pleasure. Thank you. Cheers.
You've been listening to Real People, Real Life. Our passion is to have real conversations with real people who've made it. Real people who've made it, who did it on their own terms. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, catch us on Twitter or X at RPRL Podcast and on YouTube at Real People, Real Life Podcast.